Decorating a journal is a personal thing and perhaps the most satisfying part of the journal making process. My foolproof 3-step approach will not only make this easy, but leave you with a junk journal that's so special you'll want to keep it forever. Hello, it's Joey, and today I'm decorating this journal which I made in my last 2 videos. It has a collage cover, a focal point, and it's filled with fun and eclectic pages. I'm going to add pockets, envelopes, tuck spots, journal spots, lots of lovely extras. And of course I'll show you step by step so that you can do it too. But I'll not only explain what to do, but also the how and the why. So why I'm choosing particular pieces and what's in my mind as I decorate the journal. So hit that subscribe button now and let's decorate those pages. I'm starting by laying down some colour, so I want to get some texture and colour on the pages on each of these, particularly the matte pages. And the reason I want to do this, so explaining the answer to the question why, is because I think about the decoration of a journal a bit like a lovely perfume. We want base notes, we want mid-tones, and we want top notes. So my base notes in a journal are all of those lovely little background colours that you get from playing with paints, maybe watercolour paints, maybe with pencils, and they might be watercolour pencils, or they might be something just a little bit interesting and extra, like these metallic paints. So the first thing I'm going to do is just have a little bit of a play with some of these and put some colour onto some of the pages, not all of the pages. And I'm also going to think about doing that in a couple of different ways. I often just daub some watercolour paint on the background, just put a very gentle wash on the page, and that's going to work quite well on our matte pages. Remember, in here we've got glossy pages. Let's find one. We've got glossy pages like this, which is not going to take paint in the same way, particularly watercolour. But I've also got these very light pages that we put in contrast to these more structured and stronger aged vintage style pages. This one's from a book about birds. So I'm going to go through this, pick a few of the pages and put some colour on. I would like to pull out some of the colours that we started to reflect in some of the pages that we put in, which mirrored just a little bit some of the little pieces of paper that we put on the collage cover. So let's get going with wetting our paints, playing with the metallic paint, adding a few little extras with our watercolour pencils, and I think I might also have a go with some acrylic paints, and I've pulled out some in tones, gentle tones of greens and golds, and I have a lovely taupe here that's actually bronze, so that will probably have some metallic in. I've got raw sienna. These are acrylic and will add a bit of texture. So as well as adding a little bit of colour on the pages, my little piece of bubble wrap here, I'm going to have a go, a bit of experimentation at putting some texture on by dipping it into the acrylic paint and just perhaps putting that on the corners. And it's the most relaxing form of decoration I can possibly describe. Swooping along some of those gentle oranges and yellows and just adding them onto this pocket. So we turned up the page at the back of this bird page. I know that I do a lot of adding wash with just a swoosh of the paintbrush here and there. So one piece of feedback I've taken on this video is have a go using that bubble wrap just to do something different. And I love getting feedback from you guys. It's really good to hear your ideas, and you are really great at dropping comments and telling me what you think. And I've also been really enjoying seeing some of your results and what you've been creating as we create this particular journal. I don't always need to do left to right either. Of course I'm right-handed, so there's a natural swoosh here, so maybe you're also inclined to do that. I'm going to really enjoy adding envelopes and tags and all sorts. It's not really something that you sit at your desk and for once finish in one session. I've got a grid of squares, so it's squared paper underneath this little piece of the journal page. So I thought I'd do something a bit more structured and just do lines down, but I don't want to fill it with all the same colour. So I'm going to add a little bit more of that orange and let it just drift and smudge. So we have an ombre effect into that green. And this green is then broadly akin to the green on the left. So we've just got some coordination on that page. I'm going to add some kind of pull out here. So I might pause and not add paint to Thumbelina and Mr. Rat. As I turn the pages, I just think, where might I add something? What do I want to do? Does watercolour paint feel right on this page? And how can I just have some fun playing today as I build up this background, these base notes? So my 3-step approach: build up your base notes in your perfume, adding some colour. Then we're going to add mid notes, which is more about the fun of envelopes and pockets, something a bit more structural, something a bit interactive. And the top notes are those details, perhaps some handwriting, some little labels, all those little extras that add finery and finesse, and maybe the places that your eye goes to as you turn the pages. And even if we cover up some of this colour when we put some journaling cards on the page, spaces to write, we know that there'll be little areas, little pieces peeping out that we see. And it just conveys the activity and the secrets that we've added behind each of the layers and creates a sense of layering. So I don't mind if I have no concept of what's going on this page when I'm finished. I'm just creating opportunity and I'm creating interest and obviously having fun as we do it. So I just thought I'd add a little bit here with a lighter tone of yellow at the top and a darker tone of green at the bottom. So I've got just some lighter yellowy greeny tones just here at the top, and those are mirroring some of the yellows that we have on the left hand side in the flower with the bee. So one of the tips I have is, of course, do whatever suits you and what you like doing, what you enjoy, but look around the page and see what might coordinate, what might go in terms of tone, and then we can add extra details and texture with some of our other materials. So I've turned this page over, and in my mind, my memory is that lovely red, the cranberry in those berries and the icicles that are forming on the outside. So you can just imagine seeing your breath as you go on a walk and pass by a bush when you see these. So definitely let's have just something vibrant and red on here, and I maybe will augment it with a second layer of paint. Nothing to say we can't have more than one type of paint on each side. Some beautiful colours in this palette. I don't know all the colours, the colour names, but I do know I like them. And as a splash, I'm just trying to get concentration in one area, but I'm also trying to get a different direction of the splatters. Let's see what we can do with that later. Maybe that's enough for the watercolour. What I will do is move on to, let's say, the pencils, because I've got a few quick ideas for those. And also what I'm going to do is not always start at the front. So in order to get the balance in this, and I talked about this in my last video, saving some of those most beautiful pictures for being ones that you see to the back half of a journal, not necessarily being just the ones that you present in the front half, I think I'm also going to add some colour by working back to front. And to do this, I'm going to have a little play with my watercolour pencils, and I am going to pull out a few in the tones of red and green and brown. So these are a set of extremely space efficient 48 watercolour pencils from Arteza, and I'm finding that because they're sitting on my desk, I'm getting more use out of them So that is really handy. Let's have a go with some of these. I'm just creating a rectangle in some of these colours and adding a little bit of emphasis at the bottom right, and I can't honestly tell you why I'm doing it other than it feels like it's a nice way of mixing the shades, mixing the pigment, because I know that these watercolour pencils will blend. I think I'll use a slightly smaller water brush for a bit more accuracy on these, and the pigment at the bottom right on each of these is indeed blending into the main colour in the block, which is really nice, and I can control where that pigment is flowing to. I just like the magical effect when the pigment starts to flow when you add that water. I really like that. That's got quite some vibrance about it. I'm looking forward to adding some flip-flap envelopes, and as I look at this journal, in fact, if I look at this journal, this is probably the model I have in my mind as I'm decorating the new one. So I had a pull out of some of my previous journals and had a think about what sort of outcome I wanted when I'd added paint and paper and envelopes and tuck spots and everything we possibly want. And I feel like this is the kind of journal that I want to be able to end up with. I want space to write something, I want space to be able to journal, so I will add some journaling spots, and I want to be able to scribble my thoughts and ideas on particular parts of the page. I want to find journaling cards in little tuck areas. I want contrast when I turn the pages and the surprise of pulling out a piece from behind an area where I can write. I like stamping on book pages and adding those, and I would write on the back of a book page even though there's text already on it. I feel like I'm going to add some stamping and extra watercolour as I have done here. I want to make good use of fold outs and even stapled pages, and over time as I create more artwork I might add that in too. So this is the kind of feel that I want to get to. Yep, just like that, so I had to do it. And you can see it is rather random. It's not one single pure colour palette, but it gives me a sense of the interest and the interactivity that I want to get when I finish this one. So I'm going to add some metallic colours, and I think for metallics I really should have wet these first. I think that's the rule of the game, just to get them going. I'm picking a couple of them, maybe 2 or 3. Let's try the teal one again because the greens are building in our colour palette here, and I'm going to get quite a lot of water on, and I'm going to use this as a flick, and I'm coming over onto the left hand side, not sticking to just one page as I open it up, because I want the feeling of continuity on the whole of this page here. This is a gorgeous teal, and when it dries it should have that mica sparkle in it, which is absolutely perfect as we approach the festive season. But let's be honest, I fancy a bit of sparkle at any time of year. Kind of get something extra by adding another colour. I'll let that dry off. Let me just see if I can share with you the gorgeousness of that glimmer. So I've got a little bit of shimmer now on one of the pages, and I just find that so inviting for putting, imagine a beautiful fountain pen and writing on it. You can do anything you like, anytime you like, with anything you choose. I know that for this page I want that sense of magic, so I think I will allow myself to play with this gold, and maybe for this one I'll create a little space where we can write. She looks like she's thinking about something, and we can do that too, so I'm going to add just a space, a journaling spot that will definitely be great when it's dried for adding a few little notes and some text. And I can already see a phenomenal amount of shimmer in that. So that is quite exciting. Love that colour, love the bronze, I love the warmth of it. Really like that. I think it's time to have a play with adding texture with some of my acrylic paint. Again, acrylic paint is relatively new to me. I've played with it for about the last year or so, and I'm still absolutely a beginner, let's be honest. So I've got a range of colours, maybe a bit more of the gold. Gold is always incredibly useful. Have any of you used this technique in your art journals, in your junk journals, and how many of you actually use paint as background? I am interested in knowing if I'm out on a limb here. Am I doing something a bit crazy and wild? I know it's fun, and I'd love you to come along with me and have a play. I'm dabbing the acrylic paint on so that it doesn't all smudge into one block of brown, but I have mixed it up a little bit. I'm going to put a bit of protection behind one of the pages so that I don't go over the sides, and oh yes, add a bit of texture. And I really like that down there because when we pull out this page we know we've got foliage in those roses to see. I might bring that up here as well. Just some gentle marks. Really like that. And not only have I got a more random distribution of marks and little splodgy circles on the page, which comes from the bubble wrap, but I've actually also got some texture because it deposits the acrylic paint in a way that makes you want to touch the page. I can see the undulations and the extra height, the dimension that it's bringing. So something extra. And don't we just find out some of these new things when we play? We can't always plan what the effect is going to be, and I think it's more fun when we don't. So I want to try to get something that's the story of my little cranberries. I'll call them cranberries, they aren't, but they feel like it. So I've got my splatters of green, and I'm just going to add the effect of some of this green. So red splatter and some little bits of texture. And I don't know why, but it feels like it's sort of floral. Just add some of that paler green. So I've dried it off and I'm feeling rather confident. So I'm just going to go in and add some shapes, some lines that might be where leaves go. So as your confidence builds, think about going that little bit further, that little step beyond. You might not have thought that this is what you were going to do when you started decorating, but isn't it so much fun when you just experiment and allow yourself to play and I think learn? And for me, part of the joy of putting these junk journals together and of filling pages and of also having a go at designing pockets and envelopes, it's a learning journey, and it tells us a little bit about ourselves and what we like. It gives us peace and quiet at our desks, but I feel like I'm still on a journey of learning. I'm not 21 and I'm not 30, but I do want to carry on learning in life, and this is partly what this is about for me. So find your own journey and find your own joy. And we know that we love paper and that's why you're here, but give yourself every chance to play and every opportunity to improve, expand and experiment. And I think that's the journey that I'm going to go on in 2021. I've got some special plans for my videos in 2021, particularly on New Year's Eve, so watch out for that. I've got a piece of artwork. How did that happen? A little bit down here. I'm going to carry it on down here, continuity, so it feels like the page is joined up. A little bit up there. I can't tell you how much fun it is to feel the freedom of sitting at a desk and playing when, let's be honest, it's not a time where we all have freedom to do everything we want. So I hope that you're keeping safe as we approach the end of the year, and I hope that you are having fun as you're playing in your junk journal. So we've added watercolour, we've added metallic paints, we've added watercolour pencils and acrylic, and we've got definitely a greater sense of papery loveliness, both on the bottoms of pockets, on pages, on corners, on edges, on middle parts. So a lovely set of textures building up in a kind of family of blues and greens and browns. And I've got a little bit of gold humming through the sploshes that we did with our bubble wrap. So I'm feeling better about this building up and that we have those base notes. What I do want to do is add something interactive. So in my mid notes, I want something more structural, and I've decided I'm going to add a flip flap envelope on the back inner cover. So with these collage pages, we had quite a large cover, and I can see the stitching through, which I actually really like. But what I want to do is add something akin to, this is one of the envelope folders that I did a while ago. I really enjoyed making and playing with this mechanism of bing bong, tip tap, and some sort of picture in the middle. And it's interesting, it's fun. We have places to put journaling cards, we can add washi tape, we can use different textures and book pages. So that really works for me. I've got some gorgeous patterned paper here. I just love that vintage feel. I've got the opportunity to use my mushroom washi. It just speaks to me. I love it. So I thought I would just add something like that on the back cover. So let's see what we've got by way of envelopes that we can combine. Maybe I need 4 just to make that all fold in nicely. So somewhere in this bunch of paper goodies there are envelopes. I've also pulled out a few other little extras that we can have a play with later. So I've got some pockets here, some extra inserts. We'll have a look at those in a minute. Too much goodness to choose from. These are all the things that I make when I'm just sitting at my desk and want to have a play and have a go. I have lots of prototypes of different things that just happen. Some of them you get to see in my videos and some of them you don't. I really like these envelopes. These are made with glossy book pages, and what I do is add onto the front maybe some vintage paper. This is an old atlas, a road atlas. I've pulled out a piece of paper with some bold font, and then I've stamped on top and played with paint, which goes with a little strip of scrapbook paper spotty that I put as a ripped strip behind. So I think I'll use a couple of these and maybe a contrasting glossy one, and one of my all-time favourites, which is made with a large old book page, and then I've just stamped and painted across the corner. So I'll see if I can make those into an interactive flip flap. Just put the others on the side for the moment. Oh, I really like these. These are children's books and they work so well when you have illustrations and some really bold text as well. Maybe I'll put that in. I can't resist. So I'm going to put them on the back inside cover, and I need a large one on the left and a large one on the right, and I'll put the smaller ones on top. So it's going to be something like large on the left, just making sure it doesn't stick out beyond the cover, so that's your constraint really. And this one needs to go inside that one, so that would work. And then in here I can have another 2 as a flip in. Let me just show you once again. I've got a large one, I open that. I've got a smaller one, I open that. Another smaller one, I open that. And a teeny one, I open that. And I'm going to put that near the top. I'm looking to see roughly where the top of these pages finish. So I've got some kind of alignment from here across here. I'm not just putting it in the middle of the back cover. I'm also leaving a little bit of a gap between it and the spine where the pages are attached, just to make it easier to flip this out, to turn this out when we want to. Let's add another one. So obviously when this is in, it needs to be allowing this one to shut. And I'm going to put that one further down here. And in fact, I think I will allow the stitch to be seen all the way round. So if I were to put this envelope over the stitching, I think it would interrupt it, and I like the continuity of that stitch texture, which is what we created when we did the collage covers. The collage covers to this, I'm just going to say, are so easy and so much fun that I seem to have been producing quite a few. I wonder if any of these would be of interest to you if I put them in my Etsy shop. Just let me know in a comment down below. I've also done a Christmas one, so I thought I would see if I could make good use of some of these metallic papers that I have in my paper collection. I don't get to use them very often. I don't know that they're that pretty. However, I do think when used sparsely and maybe with a particular method, there's something really special that we can make with that collage approach that I shared in my first video of the series. So if you're interested, I can also share my adapted method for using just a little bit of these cheeky metallics to make a junk journal cover for a Christmas journal. And I've just used a focal point, it's a stamp, and I've painted and decorated that. So that was a lot of fun, and I would really like to share that with you anyway. So drop me a comment down below if that's something that tickles your fancy. So with this one again, I want that to be, maybe I want that to be down here. So it's interesting, it's not right on top of the one up here. So I'll get that glued in. If you'd like to know how I make my envelopes, and they are the most easy method that I know, because I like easy, I think you know that now on my channel, then I will leave a link to the video in the description box down below. But I also have a playlist that's now chock-a-block with videos for how to make all of my pockets and envelopes. So I'll leave a link to that playlist also in the video description box down below. And that might be a playlist that you want to save yourself, because I will just continue adding to it. And it means that whenever we do anything on this channel, you will have that automatically added to the playlist that you've saved. So check that out, have a look in the video description box and save the playlist, or even share it with your friends, and then you get to easily find all of these little methods and techniques for making the embellishments that I love to make here on my channel. I think this one can also go up, so I want variety of positioning, and I love the colours on this. I've got a stamp, I've got a piece of scrapbook paper and a piece of washi. So we've got flip-flap-itis, haven't we? We've got flip-flap-ability. I perhaps will decorate this as I add more to the junk journal. The one thing I want to do is just get a little focal point here, as we did with this one. So let me just find an image that I want to put on there. And what I'd like to do, obviously making sure that it doesn't obstruct this smallest envelope flapping in, is have it slightly above the edge of this envelope. So what I'm doing is hiding a little bit of the mechanism, but obviously allowing all of these to flap in and close. And I've got something super fun for adding journaling cards, spaces to add more decoration. It feels good to be able to play with it. I could write on here. I've got contrast of papers that I've used. I've done a little bit of painting, and just lots and lots of extra space for filling with lovely goodies. But it isn't too fat to cope. We're not alligator yet. So I've got some envelopes in, and perhaps we'll add a couple more envelopes around the body. But the other thing I want to do first is add a pocket on the inside. A few weeks ago I made this type of pocket. In fact, I made quite a few, and I'm going to put one of these on the inside cover. So I do have a video relatively recently that you can check on to see how I made this large pocket. It's made from an enormous book page, an old map, We've done some really simple stitching around it and added a few pockets on the front and lots of lovely bits of cardstock and tags for journaling on. It has another handmade envelope in the back here, and inside that there's a piece of cardstock to write on. We've got a pocket here and we've got a couple here and then one on the front, and it's still quite flat because the sewing really does keep it neat and tidy. So I feel that this is a good one to put as a bold statement piece on the inside cover, and it's also a place where we could add lots of extras like handmade stamps that we could then scatter around and play with in our journal. So I'm going to attach this to the inside cover, and again I'm going to do it in a way where I still see some of that stitching. I'm lucky that this is a big one, but it's not too big that it is covering up all of that texture. So let's add that, and I think I'll use my Pritt stick, a strong glue, on the back of here. In a way, I'm kind of gutted that I'm not going to also see the back of this all the time, because I love the map page. Is that something that you like using and playing with in your journals? Are you a mapaholic? I really like it when I find old atlases in charity shops or on eBay or at car boot sales, which is where I source my books. So something really special happens when we tear a page out of an old atlas, and I think you know that too. So that can go on there, nice and flush, I think, with the bottom piece here. So I'm just going to allow a bit more space up here, especially as I might want to add some extra things tucking in here. I'll just add back various journaling cards. I've got some texture here in some leaves that I've punched out. They're embossed, so you can see the veins on the leaves. And this one I've made with painted papers, so you've got texture in the leaf embossing and the swirliness of the paint you can still see. And I've got spaces for tags. You can add anything you like, and I think at this stage we can really see that the journal's getting its own identity. It's all about you and what you want to create, and it's all about what you want to add. I think that works really well. I like the colours that are relatively natural that go with the bird, which is our statement front page. Going to add that to the side down here, which means that when I open it, I've not lost too much. I can still see the identity of the page behind, but I've got a space here to add some little journal cards. In fact, I'm going to add my little mushroom on a vintage book page just in there. That could go in here. Again, I'll just put some glue on the flap. And the reason I'm choosing that page, so answering the question why each time, is because I've got blue on the rest of this page. So that's what I felt was a good place to put it. And it's not getting in the way of opening up all of this inner page. But not only have we got the flap, but we've got something interesting here. So I've got that tactile nature building. The structural elements are quite important to me. This is what I like to do. I've made envelopes in the past and added clusters, and again I've got a video on my channel with clusters, and I've just put a cluster on the front, so why not? This one has got those gentle teal tones in it, so I think that works quite well with some of the colour on this page, and I want to break this up because it has got some stark white behind it. And that means, again, I can still see a fair bit, and I could write on here with a fountain pen, but I've got an envelope and can tuck some things in there. I have a couple of prototypes here of very tall pockets that are made with some slopes, quite gentle hues, and not too tall because this is a relatively large journal. So these I might attach at least one of them. In fact, would it even fit? Let's just have that in there, and that's something that can be pulled out. And another thing I like to do is have extras that flip up, so not always thinking in this dimension of opening left to right, but I also want to have extras that flip upwards. So I'm going to have a little bit of a page, a little bit of a piece, I've just folded a piece over. I've cut out a nice picture. It felt quite academic, and I know that academic themes are a very strong aesthetic at the moment, and I've been looking at dark academia. It's a really interesting aesthetic. Don't know if you know of that one. That's a lot of fun, and I think even under that I might then add an extra pocket. And this is a 2-tier. Again, I've got a video on my channel, so look in the playlist, you'll be able to find that, and that tones nicely with the green over here. So we start to get some momentum, don't we? We start to have just that zone. We feel we know what to do. We've definitely come out of second gear, we're in third gear, and we're motoring. So on this page I've got something that folds up, and I've got space to tuck little things with pockets, and it's just building up that level of interest. I'll add one more pocket, and then we'll move on to detail, because I want to do the top notes, thinking in terms of that perfume pyramid, base notes of colours, mid-tones of interesting architectural pieces to interact with that are enabling you to put journaling cards and extra pieces of paper in, and then top notes of detail. Oh, that's good. Labels, handwriting, stickers, washi tape, all of that little bit of extra finery. This one speaks to me because the green down here and the gold I think works really well with the feathers of the birds. It's just a really simple pocket, and I'm going to glue that one on and maybe move it up because I've got blank page behind, and I do want to see as much of this as possible, so that can go in there. So we're definitely on the home straight, and to start adding my top notes I want to add a stamp, and I've chosen a stamp that is quite large. This is a La Blanche stamp, and it has some structure in it. So the picture, as you can see, sorry about the glare, the picture has got some railings and just a podium here. I think it's next to a gate, and it also has some foliage, so some flowers here. And the reason I like this stamp is not only the detail that comes through from a foam stamp, which I think is particularly good, but the foliage means I can, if I want to, maybe pastel that, chalk it, paint it when I come to add an extra layer of dimension and pattern and colour to the journal. So there's more that I can do to it once I've stamped it. In fact, I think I've done that in this journal. So similarly, this was a stamp here that I had of a building. I did it very gently, and then I just went over with a black pen to add a little bit of scribbly definition and some paint, and I just like that as a bit of gentle background on some of those pages. So I'm going to add that. Something I probably won't get time to do today, but I will do at a later date, is add my pull here sticker. I'm going to add a stamp onto that there, so that allows me to break it up with something a bit different. So I know it's not easy to see, but if I come to do playing and colouring, that will just pop out a little bit more. And I'm just using a very basic ink pad in black, so a black pigment ink pad. I also like to add text. I like to add text to the cover, and we did that just to augment the collage. So I'm going to add a little bit of text, I think in brown. So to continue with some muted shades, I'm going to add text just down here on the rat's tail. Why not? And I won't do it on the glossy pages because I think that will just smudge. I'm going to break up some of that flatness. Just one more image from this time in brown, on that large expanse of white. And I know it's a little bit more difficult to stamp when we've got undulations and a little bit of unevenness in our pages behind, but I think it's still doable. So I do like to do it once I've filled the pages. I like to do it in that pyramid of base notes, mid and top. Just there. So now I think what I'll do is add a few areas to journal, and to do that I've been cutting out some of Tracy Fox's layered tags because I think these would be great to journal on top of. So we have a bulldog clip, a tag and a tag, and I'm just going to glue a few of these in. So it's all about using what you have and creating that variety, because I think it's the contrast, as I often say, the fun factor as you turn the pages and see what you see that you weren't expecting. That would be a great place to journal. This is a lovely book page, and I've just stamped and painted a little flower there, and I love picking up colours that are in the page behind. I think what I'll do is fold that so that the flower is visible and just have that peeping out that way, so that when you pull the flower out, why don't we fold it again? Oh, let's have that so the flower is visible and the little moth is too. On the front of here, what I would do is just pick maybe a couple of labels. Let's have a label to just break up that expanse. I think that can go there, and it all just comes together. You could sit for hours and hours and hours just having fun adding extras to do like that. I think I'll make a bit of a top spot. One thing I've realised as I've been decorating this journal, of course, is how much I enjoy doing it, but I think I have to confess it shows how much stuff I've got, and at least by making a journal this way, in using all our pieces, we start to perhaps make a tiny dent in some of our collections of supplies. What do you think? Do you think doing this is using things up, or will you just literally transform what you've got into another item and then keep that? This is one of my favourite images, and I want to see more of it behind here, so I'm just going to fold that bottom up, tuck it in, and I've got mica on the tag, and that can just peep out a bit behind. And now we have the most luscious, chunky, chubby, squidgy junk journal. I so hope that you make one of these and enjoy it as much as I have. Please hit the subscribe button and join me again, and give me a thumbs up because that really does help on my channel. And I look forward to seeing you so much in December and in 2021. I hope to see you soon.